pull up a chair. After years as a detective, my bedrock belief was simple: logic solves everything. Superstition, phantoms, curses, just noise. Every impossible scenario had a tangible explanation, hiding in plain sight. That's how you stay sane. But out here, away from the city, the impossible seems to happen more often. Communities gripped by fear, convinced of the supernatural. I don't buy it. I dig deeper, past the folklore, to find the real story. This next case took me to a place of stunning natural beauty, a tranquil lake nestled deep in the mountains. A place where the water was said to swallow reflections, and where people started vanishing. They called it a portal. I called it a damn good natural trap. The call came from a park ranger, a grizzled old-timer named Frank, whose voice, usually as steady as granite, now trembled with a mixture of bewilderment and dread. "Detective," he rasped, "I don't know what to tell you." It asked the lake. "Something is happening. People, they ray just disappearing, and the old stories, they ray starting to make sense." The lake in question was a serene, pristine body of water nestled high in a remote mountain range, surrounded by towering pines and granite peaks. It was renowned for its crystal-clear waters, so still they often perfectly mirrored the surrounding landscape. But for generations, local legend had whispered a chilling tale: the lake swallowed reflections. It was said that if you gazed into its depths at certain times, your reflection would vanish or distort into something horrifying, and shortly thereafter, you would meet an ill fate or simply disappear. It was a quaint, unsettling local myth, something for the tourist brochures to playfully hint at. But recently, the myth had taken a terrifying turn. In the last few months, several experienced hikers, all familiar with the area, had vanished without a trace after being seen near the lake-ash shores. No bodies, no gear, no signs of struggle, just an unsettling void where a person had been. What truly fueled the growing panic were the consistent reports from other visitors, witnessing bizarre optical illusions on the lake-ash surface, where reflections would shimmer, blur, or seemingly vanish. Some even claimed to see distorted figures, like warped ghosts, in the water just before one of the disappearances. People were convinced the lake was a portal, a hungry entity, or cursed by an ancient spirit that craved human souls. Tourism was plummeting, and a wave of hysteria was sweeping through the small towns at the base of the mountains. I drove out there, leaving the cacophony of the city for the oppressive quiet of the high country. The air was thin, crisp, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. I listened to Ranger Frank's desperate account, to the terrified, hushed whispers of the locals. I heard their tales of portals and curses, the fearful glances cast towards the shimmering, seemingly innocent lake. I nodded, took it all in, but my mind was already dissecting the impossible. A lake doesn't just spontaneously swallow reflections or open portals. There had to be a physical cause, a specific set of circumstances manipulating perception and creating genuine danger. I wasn't looking for spirits. I was looking for geological and atmospheric anomalies. My first instinct was to meticulously examine the locations where the disappearances occurred, all of them along a specific, less traveled section of the lake-ash shore known for its steep, rocky cliffs and hidden inlets. I noticed a subtle pattern. The disappearances consistently happened during specific weather conditions, either during periods of unusual stillness in the air, or, paradoxically, when peculiar, Localized wind currents created strange disturbances on the lake's surface, often coinciding with specific times of day, usually late afternoon or early morning. I also observed that the ground along that particular section of the shore was unusually unstable in places. There were numerous narrow, almost hidden fissures and deep sinkholes, often disguised by overhanging vegetation or a thin crust of dried mud and loose rocks. These were far more treacherous than they appeared, some barely wide enough to notice but deep enough to swallow a person whole. Many of them lead to complex, unmapped cave systems beneath the lake itself. I then brought in specialized equipment, high-resolution lidar mapping drones to create precise topographical models of the lakebed and surrounding terrain, sensitive atmospheric probes, and advanced water analysis kits. As the drones surveyed the active section of the lake, the lidar detected unusual subterranean geological formations beneath the lakebed, including large, cavernous voids and a network of interconnected tunnels. The atmospheric probes, particularly during those periods of unusual stillness, picked up distinct, localized temperature inversions over the lake's surface, where layers of warm and cold air created incredibly sharp boundaries. The water analysis kits revealed something else. The lake water, while generally pure, contained unusually high concentrations of dissolved minerals in certain localized pockets, particularly near underwater vents or fissures connected to subterranean springs. These minerals subtly altered the water's density and refractive index in those specific areas. Now, the whole terrifying picture snapped into focus. No hungry lake spirits, no portals to another dimension. This was a series of tragic disappearances caused by a complex, utterly unlucky confluence of unique geological features, specific atmospheric conditions, and the powerful psychological impact of local legend. Here's what happened. Plain as day, the vanishing reflections were a result of a combination of unique optical phenomena. The localized temperature inversions over the lake's surface created what is scientifically known as a superior mirage. In these conditions, light bends unusually, causing objects like reflections to appear distorted, stretched, inverted, or even to disappear entirely from view, depending on the precise angle of observation and atmospheric layering. When the air was perfectly still, the reflections could seem to vanish as light passed through these invisible thermal layers. When there were peculiar wind currents, they could cause distortions that made reflections shimmer and warp into horrifying shapes, feeding the distorted ghost reports. Compounding this, the high concentration of dissolved minerals in specific pockets of the lake water could further alter its refractive index, creating additional, subtle optical illusions. These mineral-rich water pockets, combined with the atmospheric mirage effects, could make a reflection appear to detach, to sink, or to be swallowed by the depths. People, already primed by the legends, would interpret these natural optical phenomena as something deeply supernatural. The disappearances themselves, the hikers, often venturing off the main trails in search of solitude or a better view, were affected by these disorienting optical illusions and the psychological impact of the local folklore. Convinced they were witnessing something paranormal, their fear and confusion would have led them to make critical missteps. The terrain along that particular section of the shore was riddled with deep, treacherous sinkholes and fissures, often hidden by loose soil, moss, or thick overgrowth. Many of these opened into the vast, unmapped subterranean cave and tunnel systems that honeycombed the area beneath the lake. The disoriented hikers, perhaps attempting to navigate unstable ground while visually confused by the mirages, would simply stumble, step, or fall into these hidden chasms. The swallowed by the lake aspect was terrifyingly literal in some cases, some sinkholes directly connected to underwater caves, and the current from subterranean springs or the lake's own subtle shifts could pull a body deep into the unseen network. The reason no trace was found was simply due to the incredibly complex and inaccessible nature of these deep, water-filled caverns and tunnels beneath the lake, acting as natural, inescapable tombs. It was a chilling example of how the most terrifying tales can be born from a perfect storm of natural phenomena, misinterpreted by human fear and solidified by ancient legends. The portal was just a geological trap, so there you have it. The case of the vanishing reflections and the missing hikers. No hungry lake spirits, no portals to another dimension drawing unsuspecting souls into the abyss. Just a grim, yet perfectly rational, testament to the silent, often terrifying power of nature and the dangerous cocktail of disorientation, geology, and human belief. This one, it still makes me pause. It wasn't about human malevolence. Not directly. It was about an insidious, invisible threat, a slow creeping horror that transformed a place of serene beauty into a deadly trap. These people weren't attacked by some phantom. They were simply led astray, then consumed by the very environment they sought to enjoy. Their belief in a cursed lake or a mystical portal was a desperate attempt to make sense of something incomprehensible, something utterly beyond their control. It asks a chilling thought, isn't it, that the very air above a lake, the minerals dissolved in its depths, and the ancient, hidden geology beneath our feet can conspire to create illusions so potent, so terrifying, that they lead us straight to our doom, that the curse can be a confluence of thermal inversions, water chemistry, and hidden sinkholes, silently eroding your perception, stripping away your very sense of reality. It relies on our natural human tendency to look for grand, dramatic explanations for mysterious disappearances, rather than the subtle, slow, often mundane truths of environmental hazards. For me, this case was a profound reminder of the delicate, often unforgiving balance between humanity and the natural world. It cemented the idea that sometimes the most dangerous monsters aren't the ones with teeth and claws, or even cunning plans. They raid the unseen, the unheard, the phenomena that slowly erode our senses from the inside out, turning our own perceptions against us. And when you factor in our innate tendency to seek mystical explanations for what we can't immediately understand, you've got a recipe for genuine, widespread terror. So, the next time you hear a wild tale of a place cursed by nature, or people afflicted by strange disappearances, pause. Don't jump to conclusions, no matter how thrilling or terrifying they might seem. Look for the small details, the unusual stillness in the air, the faint shimmer on the water, the geological history of the area. Because often, the true horror isn't some ancient spirit, it is the very real, very physical threats that our environment can pose, especially when ignored or misunderstood. Until next time, stay curious, but always stay grounded. And maybe pack a better compass, just in case.